Okay, this is going to be our start point where our 18.4 comes out to the fence. We're going to mount our control unit in the control room. So we're going to open this guy up. This is where we're going to start the cable from. Alright, so we're just going to spool out this cable. There's no conditioning or special treatment when we're taking it off the roll. You just roll it out. Okay, now we got our cable spooled out. You can see that this sensor, if we put it into here, sensor is not going to reach very far past this post, so we're going to put it on this side of this post. So we'll start with our first sensor right here. Try not to cover up the LED. Okay, so we want one zip tie over the body of the sensor. Make sure that you're getting it in the cross section of the fence. Okay. And if you're going to use metal zip ties, we prefer to get over the cross section so that the zip tie doesn't cut into the sensor itself or into the cable. And we prefer that you use at least a metal zip tie over the sensor. You can use plastic zip ties over the rest of the cable. Come over here. Now this, since our wire is just copper and it's not fiber or coax, we can easily just cut it to where we need it. Since this is just for a demo, I'm not actually going to cut the wire. Okay, we got our wire in there. We can just make a loop with this. Okay, then we're going to take the rest of the cable, we're going to pull it tight, we're going to keep it at the same height. Not that it matters for detection, but it just looks better for aesthetics. Good way to do that is just count how many crosses you have to get to the top. So we're 5 down. So we can come on the other side of the post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then when you get to each post, you want it to look something like this. We don't want it to be tight against the post like so. We want to have slack around the post so the cable can move and it's not pulled tight against it. All right, a good thing to say is be able to stick 2 fingers between the cable and the post. All right, then our next sensor, we want to get it as close as we can to the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're keeping it the same height. Make sure the LED is facing you. You don't want to flip it to where the LED is on the wrong side. So we'll put our 3 sensors, or the zip ties, on our sensor. Okay, then we can pull back to the post. Now you see that we got some slack on this one because that last sensor was really close to the post. What we can do with this, since it's just copper wire, is we can make a loop Can't do this with the other fence detection systems. Just make a simple loop to eat up some of that slack. Now, your sensor doesn't have to be exactly in the center of the fence panel. It can be left of center, right of center. And in fact, if you have 8-foot panels, since the sensors are separated by 10 feet, you're going to notice that your first one's in the center, your next one will be over a little bit and over a little bit and over a little bit, and eventually you're going to end up close to this post unless you're making loops pretty often on the fence. But that's all right. And then we pull this tight over here. Make sure you keep your cable taut. Okay, and the rest of the cable, since the cable isn't doing the detection, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It doesn't have to have a certain amount of tension or zip ties every 6 inches. We just want to throw on a couple zip ties to keep it attached to the fence. I'd say anywhere between 12 and 16 inches is acceptable. Okay, and we're going to continue down the fence. Okay, so here's our first URUT. This is where the non-detecting cable is going to meet the UR. We'll wire this up. You can see that. See that it says red, black, yellow, green. And of course, those are the colors of the wires that we have.
If I go tell those guys to come out.
Okay, so we've got our comm wire going inside, hooked up to our first URUT. So this is our non-detecting cable running back inside. Again, we got red, black. We're using white as yellow. Red, black, yellow, green there. It doesn't matter which terminal you use, but if you're going to the right, I would use the right terminal for your detector cable. If you're going to the left, I would use the left cable for the detector. All right, this URUT switch right here needs to be moved to UR. Okay, so that means it's a link unit. When it's in the UT position, that means that it's the end of line. This other switch right here is for cross and parallel. That's for when this is actually installed between 2 detecting cables. At the end of one detecting cable, you got to install one of these one of these URUT units. Down here on the sensor, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an A and a B. Okay, so if the detecting cable on this side had A on the left, B on the right, and then you come in and out and you've got A on the left, B on the right, you're going to leave this switch in the parallel position. But if you've got B to A over here and then A to B on this side, that's when you would flip this to the cross position. All right, but if you string out your cable the same direction the entire site, you should never have to flip this to the cross position. All right, so then we'll go down our fence line. You can see here we've got our slack around the post. We made a little loop to eat up the slack between the 2 sensors. We got our sensor cable, 3 zip ties on every sensor. Our cable is in a pretty straight line, so it looks good. We've got slack around each post. 3 zip ties per sensor. Okay, slack at each post. I'm gonna go down all the way to the end. So I've got 16 sensors here. It's about a half a roll of cable. A roll cable comes with 40 sensors on it. I installed this by myself in about an hour. And then at the end of the line, we've got our URUT. Okay, so this is the end point of this system. If it was continuing on, we would connect another detection cable here and continue on. So this one, the URUT switch is going to be moved over to the right, which is UT, and we don't have another cable, so the cross parallel switch doesn't matter. And at the end of the line, you can terminate in either block, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we got our gate done. We got a loop coming onto the gate. We got one sensor up high on the gate, loops down. Loops down, we got another sensor on the gate. Another loop of slack so that when they open it, it doesn't pinch it. And then this is gonna be replaced with the URUT. So it has gate protection. So we'll go into here with the URUT, come out with a passive cable, and go underneath the gate to the other side. Okay, it actually is windy out here, but I'm gonna simulate more wind. See, I can shake the fence, no alarm. As soon as I start behind the fence, it detects it right away. Again, also, if I was gonna cut the fence, as soon as I touch the fence, we get an alarm. No fence from the wind though.